What if I told you that right now, a woman is replaying something you said 3 weeks ago? A comment you made without thinking. A smile you gave in passing. A moment you've already forgotten. But she hasn't. You walk through life thinking you're invisible. Just another guy in the crowd. But what if the reason women seem distant around you isn't disinterest? What if it's the opposite? What if your quiet confidence is exactly what makes you irresistible? Here's what most men never realize. The guys women secretly obsess over aren't the loudest in the room. They're not performing for attention. They move through the world like it belongs to them, without needing to prove it. They speak when it matters. They disappear into their own thoughts while everyone else fights to be seen. That man? That's you. You just don't know it yet. That's why you miss the signs. The subtle changes when you enter a room. The lingering glances. The nervous energy. You were taught to look for obvious attraction. Bold flirting. Direct compliments. But real desire is quiet. Hidden in gestures that look casual, but aren't. These next 7 signs aren't loud. They're not obvious, and that's exactly why they're real. If even 3 sound familiar, someone in your life right now is secretly hoping you'll finally notice her. Sign number 1. Her body language becomes a foreign language. She's the type of woman who never loses her composure. Sharp with her words, smooth with her presence. The kind who rarely falters, never fidgets, always knows exactly what to say, especially around everyone else. But when she's near you, something shifts. Her laugh changes. It becomes faster, lighter, almost like it's escaping before she can control it. Her hand reaches for her hair, tucking it behind her ear, then doing it again 10 seconds later. Her eyes search for something to focus on. A coffee cup, her phone, the floor, anything that isn't your face for too long. And when she does look at you, her pupils dilate just a fraction more than they should. You might think it's nerves, social awkwardness. Maybe she's having an off day. But here's what's really happening. Her body has already confessed what her mind is still trying to hide. She's attracted to you, deeply. But that attraction is wrapped in fear, confusion, and vulnerability. So her body betrays her. Her words stay neutral, polite, professional. She might even seem distant or unimpressed. But her physiology tells the truth, and she can't control it. Carl Jung once said that what we suppress doesn't disappear. It reemerges, disguised as behavior we can't explain. This is shadow psychology in action. When a woman tries to suppress desire, especially when she believes it's one-sided, the desire leaks out in fragmented, uncontrollable ways. She starts overcompensating. She'll act overly disinterested while checking her reflection in a nearby window. She'll interrupt you quickly, then nervously correct herself. She'll crack a joke, then instantly apologize, worried it came out wrong. She wants you to see her, but not see too much, because deep down, she's terrified of what would happen if you realized just how much she's been thinking about you. Around her friends, she's unshakable, calm, effortlessly in control. But around you, the man she secretly wants, she becomes someone she doesn't fully recognize. It's not always dramatic. Often, it's subtle. She lingers 1 second too long in a hallway. She sighs without knowing why. She trips over a word she's said 1,000 times before, and you probably don't notice, because you've been taught to look for the loud signs of attraction. Flirtation, compliments, bold gestures. But the women who feel the most often say the least. Her silence isn't disinterest, it's restraint. Her distance isn't rejection, it's defense. She's not afraid of you. She's afraid of what you make her feel. And that is the deepest sign of all. Sign number 2. She becomes a detective of your details. You mentioned it once, casually, maybe during a random conversation or while looking at a menu. I'm more of a tea person. Coffee makes me anxious. You forgot you even said it. But weeks later, there she is, holding tea. When you mention it, she smiles like it's a coincidence. But it's not. That wasn't a drink choice. It was a memory trigger. A detail she stored because it mattered. When a woman is secretly attracted to you, she starts collecting data. Not like a stalker, like someone trying to understand a language. Your language. She remembers the band you mentioned in passing. She recalls your opinion in something trivial because, to her, it wasn't trivial. She notes the way your voice changed when you talked about your family, and she brings it up again later, carefully, testing how much you remember too. This isn't just good memory, it's emotional imprinting. When you make someone feel something powerful, surprise, admiration, connection, their brain records it differently, deeper, stickier. To her, you're not background noise. You're a signal cutting through the static of daily life. Her mind holds on to Yukimo in pieces. It's not just what you said, it's how you said it. The way your eyes softened when you talked about your dog. The way your voice went quiet when you mentioned a past regret. Even if you've moved on from that moment. She hasn't. Psychologists call this selective memory encoding. It happens when the brain tags something as emotionally significant. You to her. According to attachment theory, when someone sees emotional potential in another person, especially someone they perceive as grounded and emotionally mature, they begin tracking patterns. Tiny emotional breadcrumbs. How often do you open up? What topics do you avoid? What lights you up versus what shuts you down? She watches it all. Not with a checklist, but with quiet, feminine intuition most men never notice. Why? Because she's not just listening to connect. She's listening to understand what kind of man you are and what kind of woman she'd need to become to stand beside you. That's why when you say, "I used to read more, but I don't have time anymore," she doesn't respond with advice. She shows up 3 weeks later with a book recommendation, asking if you've heard of the author. When you mention your mom's been stressed, she brings it up gently the next time you see her. Not to pry, but to show she was listening. Really listening. Here's what most men miss. Women don't remember everything. They remember selectively, based on who matters. If she remembers things you forgot, if she recalls random lines from months ago, if she brings up conversations you barely remember having, you've left a mark. You didn't try to. That's why it worked. Because you weren't performing. You were just being yourself. And that version of you, unfiltered and unplanned, was powerful enough to imprint. Sign number 3. Her eyes tell stories. Her mouth never will. You feel it before you see it. That strange pressure in the air, like someone's watching you. So you glance up, and for a moment, her eyes meet yours. But only for a moment. She looks away fast, sometimes with a half smile, sometimes pretending to fix her hair or check her phone, like nothing happened. Like she wasn't studying you just seconds earlier. But she was. That wasn't a random glance. It was a scan. A moment of silent invincibilitas where she let her guard down, then yanked it back up. When a woman is secretly attracted to you, her eyes will betray her long before her words ever will. Eyes contact is primal. It bypasses social scripts. It's not what we say. It's what our nervous system does before we have time to filter it. In psychology, this is called approach avoidance behavior. The instinct to move toward what we want, followed immediately by the fear of being exposed. That's what happens in her eyes when she looks at you. She's not just admiring your face. She's watching the way your jaw tightens when you're focused, the way your eyebrows move when you're thinking, the way your presence seems both detached and commanding. But then she realizes you've noticed, and she panics, because eye contact isn't just visual, it's emotional. It's a kind of nakedness, a split-second moment where she's not in control anymore. And that terrifies her. Why? Because if she looks too long, you'll see it. Not just attraction, but everything underneath. The longing, the vulnerability, the story she's built about who you are. She's not just seeing a man, she's seeing a possibility. A relationship that doesn't exist yet, but already feels real in her mind. This is where primal psychology kicks in. In early human evolution, prolonged eye contact signaled intimacy, trust, or threat. That's why it still triggers our adrenaline. That's why your heart beats faster when someone holds your gaze just a second too long. For her, that moment of locking eyes with you isn't just a physical response, it's a psychological risk. Because if she looks too long, you might realize what she's been hiding. And worse, you might not feel the same. So she pulls away, fast, controlled, casual, or at least trying to be. You might assume she's shy or just polite. You might even think she's not interested at all. But here's the truth. If she wasn't attracted to you, she wouldn't look at you that much in the first place. And she definitely wouldn't feel the need to look away. Indifference holds eye contact without fear. But desire? Desire hides. Desire avoids exposure, especially when it feels one-sided. That's the paradox. The more deeply she's drawn to you, the harder it becomes for her to hold your gaze. So the next time you catch a woman looking and she quickly looks away, don't dismiss it. That moment was her heart skipping and her logic catching up. She wants you to notice, but only a little, just enough to wonder, just enough to test the waters. Sign number 4. She becomes a master of strategic positioning. You walk into your usual coffee shop. Same time, same order, same spot by the window. But lately, someone else has been there too. Not sitting with you. Not even talking to you. Just there. In the corner. In your periphery. Headphones in, book open, casually observing. At first, it feels like coincidence. Then it happens again. Different day, different outfit. Same chair, same timing. You think maybe she just likes this place, but something doesn't add up. She didn't used to be here, and now she is. Often, not just at the coffee shop. At the same gym class you just started. At that group hangout your friend invited you to. Volunteering for that work project you're already on. Every time it feels casual, unplanned, random. But it isn't. She's repositioning herself quietly into your orbit. Not to overwhelm you, not to stalk you, but to be seen, to be near, to increase the chances of something, anything happening. This is what psychologists call strategic proximity. The unconscious act of placing yourself in someone's environment to deepen familiarity and increase emotional exposure without making it obvious. It's not manipulation, it's protection, because the women who are most drawn to you are also the ones most afraid of being rejected by you. So instead of chasing, they drift. They orchestrate collisions that feel accidental. She shows up at the bookstore you mentioned, takes the long hallway past your office, sits close enough to overhear your voice, but far enough to deny it if asked. And you? You might think she's just being friendly, or worse, she probably doesn't even notice me. But what you're seeing is emotional investment hidden under layers of plausible deniability, because admitting it would be terrifying, too direct, too exposed, too vulnerable. So she builds patterns designed to look like randomness. Why? Because she's hoping that the more she's around you, the more you'll start to see her. Not as a passerby, but as someone who belongs in your space. Over time, these coincidences build emotional residue. She becomes familiar, recognizable, safe, and slowly, essential. That's the silent strategy. To make your world feel incomplete when she's not around, without ever saying a word about how she feels. Most men miss it. They notice the presence, but not the pattern. They chalk it up to timing or friendliness or shared routines. But shared routines don't explain why she suddenly joined that event you've attended for years, why she switched her lunch break, why she always seems to have a reason to talk to you, even when there's someone else she could ask. This isn't stalking. It's subtle pursuit. It's a dance of emotional calculation. How close can she get without tipping her hand? Because the moment you realize what she's doing, it's no longer safe for her, so she hides it in errands, in timing, in little moments that don't feel like anything until they feel like everything. Pay attention not to the grand gestures, but to the quiet consistency. If she keeps showing up where you are, not once, not twice, but regularly, it's not chance. It's her way of saying, I want to be near you. I just don't know if I'm allowed to want that. Sign number 5. She asks questions that unlock your soul. You're having what seems like a normal conversation, maybe during a walk, or in a car, or late at night, when everyone else has gone quiet. And then she asks something that stops you. What's your relationship with your dad like? Or, have you ever been truly in love? Or, what's something you wish people understood about you? It doesn't feel intrusive. She's not prying. Her tone is soft, curious, not calculated. But the question lands deep, deeper than you expected. It reaches into a part of you that most people don't bother with. Then she changes the subject effortlessly, as if nothing happened, but something did. She peeled a layer back. While you're still processing your answer, she's already thinking about what it revealed. When a woman is secretly drawn to you, she doesn't just observe what you do, she listens for what you protect, what you deflect, what you avoid, what you unconsciously reveal when you think you're being casual. She asks about your childhood, not for gossip, but to understand what shaped you. She asks about your last relationship, not for drama, but to understand what kind of love you learned to accept and what kind you've been running from. To you, it's just conversation. To her, it's character development. She's gathering details, not to judge you, but to build a story of who you are, like a novelist developing a character. What motivates him? What breaks him? What does he dream about when he's not performing? Most men don't notice it. They think, she's just really easy to talk to, or she's so emotionally intelligent. And she might be, but what you're missing is this. She's studying you, not in a cold, clinical way, in a warm, emotionally intuitive way, because she doesn't want the surface version of you. She wants the real you, the version hidden under your sarcasm, your routine answers, your practiced detachment. She wants the man beneath the mask. Carl Jung believed that all of us carry archetypes, universal versions of the self buried in our psyche. The king, the warrior, the magician, the lover, the rebel, the caregiver. When a woman asks you deeper questions, she's trying to figure out which archetype lives inside you. Are you the man who leads quietly like a king? The man who protects what matters like a warrior? The one who hides his pain behind wisdom like a magician? Or the man who loves intensely but fears being loved back like the wounded lover? She's trying to see not just who you are now, but who you've always been beneath the noise. This is emotional layering, a process where someone builds a three-dimensional understanding of you by collecting small, intimate pieces over time. If you've noticed that she brings up those pieces later, asks how your family is doing, remembers your career doubts, or circles back to a story you once brushed off, that's not casual. That's deliberate emotional investment. She's tracing your outline and filling it in with care. Because to her, you're not just a man. You're a mystery worth understanding. And maybe she's hoping that if she knows you well enough, you'll finally let her in. Not just physically, but into the story you've been writing alone. Sign number 6. She creates moments of intimate normalcy. There's something she does that feels so natural, you almost don't notice it. But it's there, in the way she saves you a seat without being asked, in how she remembers you don't like mushrooms when ordering pizza for the group, in the way she automatically hands you her phone when you mention needing to make a call. It's not dramatic. It's not obvious. It's just easy. Like you've been in each other's lives for years, not months. Like taking care of you, it's in second nature. She creates these pockets of intimacy disguised as friendship. She'll bring you coffee the way you like it without asking. She'll text you about something funny she saw that reminds her of you. She'll offer to drive when you mention your car is in the shop. To everyone else, she's just being nice. But there's something different about how she's nice to you. More attentive, more anticipatory, more domestic. This is what psychologists call relationship simulation. She's unconsciously practicing what it would feel like to be with you, to care for you, to have you be a regular part of her daily routine. She's testing the waters of deeper connection through acts of service and consideration. The beautiful thing is, she's not doing it to manipulate you. She's doing it because it feels good. Because imagining you as part of her life, even in small ways, brings her joy. And she's hoping that the more natural it feels, the more you'll start to see her as essential rather than optional. Watch for the woman who anticipates your needs before you voice them, who remembers the small things that make your day better, who creates moments of casual intimacy that feel like glimpses of what life could be like together. She's not just being friendly. She's auditioning for a role she's not sure she'll ever get to play. Sign number 7. She becomes beautifully vulnerable in your presence. Here's the most telling sign of all. She tells you things. Real things. Not the polished, socially acceptable version of her life, but the messy, complicated, beautiful truth. She shares her fears about the future, her embarrassing moments, her family drama, her dreams that feel too big to say out loud. And she tells you first, not her best friend, not her sister. You, the man she's secretly hoping will see her as more than just another person in his orbit. She opens up because vulnerability is the ultimate test. She's showing you her real self to see if you'll stay, if you'll care, if you'll prove worthy of her trust. This is her way of saying, this is who I am when the mask comes off. Can you handle it? Do you want to? She'll share stories from her past that reveal her character. She'll admit to mistakes she's learned from. She'll tell you about the things that keep her up at night and the dreams that get her up in the morning. She's giving you a roadmap to her heart, hoping you'll want to explore it. Most men miss this entirely. They think, she's just comfortable talking to me, or she treats me like a friend. But friends don't get this level of access. Friends don't get to see this much of her inner world. You do, because you're not just a friend to her. You're the man she's hoping will become her person. When a woman shares her vulnerabilities with you, when she trusts you with her real thoughts and feelings, when she lets you see her without her emotional armor, She's not just making conversation. She's making a choice. The choice to risk rejection for the possibility of connection. You might be wondering if all of this is true, if she's watching you, thinking about you, hoping for something more. Why doesn't she just tell you? Why doesn't she make it obvious? The answer isn't weakness, it's conditioning. From the time she was young, she was taught to wait. Wait to be chosen. Wait to be pursued. Wait for the man to make the first move. Because if she does it first, she risks everything. We often celebrate confidence in men, but question it in women when it comes to matters of the heart. So instead of expressing desire directly, she learns to signal it in shadows. To communicate through proximity, eye contact, thoughtful questions, and nervous energy. She never has to say, "I want you," because if you don't feel the same, she loses not just the opportunity, but her dignity. And that's the fear. Not just rejection of her feelings, but rejection of her perception of you. What if she's wrong? What if she misread the signs? What if you think she's desperate? What if you're out of her league? That last one stings the most. Because the more deeply a woman admires you, your calmness, your independence, your authenticity, the less likely she is to believe she has a chance. And that's the paradox. The men who are most admired, most desired, most thought about, often feel the most invisible. Because the moment you start radiating quiet self-possession, the kind that doesn't beg for validation, people assume you're already taken, already loved, already unavailable. So she never tells you. She just hopes you'll notice. She drops signals and soft glances and meaningful conversations, then walks away like none of it meant anything. But it did. It meant she was trying. Carefully, silently, strategically, because to her, you weren't just another man. You were the one worth risking hope for, even if she could never say it out loud. Here's what no one tells you about being the man women secretly admire. You've walked into rooms where no one approached you, passed by women who didn't smile, been in groups where no one flirted obviously. No one made it clear. And so you told yourself, I'm not the type they notice. But here's the part no one says out loud. You weren't invisible because you lacked presence. You were invisible because your presence was too powerful to approach carelessly. The truth is, people admire from a distance what they're afraid to reach for. If you've ever felt unseen, it might not be because you weren't desirable. It might be because you were admired silently by people who didn't believe they had the right to approach you. There is a hidden cost to that kind of desirability. You walk through the world unaware of your effect. You doubt your attractiveness. You question your worth. You assume you've been overlooked when, in reality, you've been put on a pedestal so high that no one dared to climb it. And that leads to something deeper, something quieter, something most men don't talk about. Emotional isolation. Because what good is being desired if no one tells you? If no one shows it obviously? If the only evidence lives in shadows, in quick glances, subtle gestures, and conversations you didn't realize were loaded with meaning, you begin to feel disconnected from yourself, from others, from the truth of your impact. And so you shrink. You stop showing up fully. You stop believing you're the kind of man people crave because no one ever said it directly. But they were there, watching, feeling, wanting, just silently. Maybe now you're thinking back to a woman who got nervous around you, one who remembered too much, one who lingered near but never said why. And now you see it. The signs, the missed signals, the silent invitations. So what do? You don't exploit it. You don't suddenly act like you've won something. Because this isn't a game. It's someone else's courage disguised as silence. If you recognize yourself in these signs, if you feel that quiet pull from someone in your orbit, the right response isn't dominance, it's awareness. Honor the effort. Because the women who show you these signs aren't just attracted to how you look. They're drawn to who you are when you're not trying. And that's a rare kind of desire. One rooted in presence, not performance. So respond with presence. Not with arrogance, but with warmth. Not with games, but with attention. Pay closer attention to the ones who look twice, but speak half as much. The ones who ask thoughtful questions but pretend it's just small talk. The ones who show up again and again, but always have a reason that sounds like coincidence. They don't need you to be perfect. They just need a sign that you see them too. A glance that lingers. A sentence that goes just a bit deeper. A question that lets them know you've been listening. You don't have to force anything. Just make it safe for something to begin. Because sometimes the bravest thing someone can do is quietly hope you'll notice. You were never invisible. You were unforgettable in silence. While you walked through rooms feeling unnoticed, someone was memorizing the way you moved. While you thought your voice didn't matter, someone was replaying the way you said their name. While you believed you were just another man passing by, you were becoming the one they couldn't stop thinking about. The truth is, you've always been watched. Not with eyes that judged, but with eyes that longed. You just didn't know how to read the language. The nervous glances, the thoughtful questions, the sudden silences when you appeared. But now you do. Now you see what was hidden. Now you recognize what was always there. And maybe, somewhere right now, a woman is smiling at the thought of you. Not because of what you did, but because of how you made her feel without even trying. She's waiting for a moment, a word, a glance. Maybe not today, maybe not ever, but still hoping that someday you'll smile back. Because you're not just another man in her story. You're the plot twist she never saw coming. The character she can't stop thinking about. The possibility that keeps her believing in something more. You were never meant to be obvious. You were meant to be unforgettable. And trust me, you are.